Good morning and welcome to Conversations with Annassa. So happy to be with you this morning. How wonderful. Let's start with meditation so we can all get on the same page. So take your attention inside and down to the ground of the earth so we can feel our root system into the dirt. This is the star garden chakra where we plant our dreams every day and water them at the beginning of our meditation. And of course, the most important dream is to be completely connected to God herself. Feel into that connection. And you can say Ho'oponopono. Thank you. I love you. And I'm sorry. Now allow the energy to rise up to the sex chakra. Feel into that space, into the space between the breaths. Thank you. I love you. And I'm sorry. Allow your attention to rise to just below your belly button. Breathe, and in the space between the breaths, thank you. I love you. And I'm sorry. Gently allow your energy to rise up to the solar plexus, right underneath your rib cage. Breathe into that space. This is the place that locks up when you get the wind knocked out of you. Breathe into that space. Thank you. I love you. And I'm sorry. Allow whatever wants to emerge to show itself and welcome it, whatever feeling. Just allow and watch. If you feel some tightness, that is a place to relax and allow. It means that something is about to show itself to you when you feel an energy center tighten. And so you just relax and feel deeper. With a sense that you're allowing the compression to open. And try to cultivate a feeling of gratitude for this part in you that is trying to show you itself. All parts are welcome. And just know when we welcome these parts, the first thing they do is complain. That's welcome. Breathe into that space and allow. And the tightness may just disappear. That's fine. Now allow your attention to rise up to your heart center. Breathe into the space in the center of your chest. Thank you. I love you. And I'm sorry. Gently allow your attention to rise to your throat center. Feel for the space in between the breaths. Thank you. I love you. And I'm sorry. As you're ready, take your attention to your third eye. Breathe into the space. Thank you. I love you. And I'm sorry. Take your attention to the top of your head. Feel for a huge flower that opens to receive pranic plasma. Pranic plasma is the healing power of the multiverse becoming available for us as we open to receive in the energy center at the top of our head. There's a 1,000-petaled flower that just opens. Follow your energy as it rises up to the point above your head where your fingers would touch if you made a halo around your head. Allow your attention to rest there. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. These are the words we speak to our highest self as we ask it to be completely present. As we feel ourselves as that. Allow your awareness to magnetize to the non-material aspect of ourselves. Allow yourself to rest in that. I am that. The field of pure awareness. As you're ready, bring your attention back and we'll make ourselves available for questions. So beautiful to be with you this morning. Thank you so much. How may we serve? It's such a gift to be here with you. So we're going to talk a little bit about Ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono we use to engage the feelings within ourselves that have yet to be brought to peace. And so when we do our inner work, when we sit in meditation, feelings begin to arise. And sometimes these feelings have been unexpressed for so long, not just in us, but in generations before us. The matrix of belief has been that feelings are not important. Facts are what we need to pay attention to, and feelings are a distraction. This is our cultural matrix of belief. And so many of us come to inner work with this internal perspective that has been part of our matrix of belief for generations. So it's not part of our perception of our fundamental being that emotions have a place. And so it takes some cultivation for them to begin to appear And very often they appear as emotions that we would rather not feel, like disappointment and sadness. And very often those feelings are a part of our inner landscape that we've been ignoring for a long time, or take for granted as the fundamental nature of our being. And that's not the truth of who we are or what we're made of. It's not wrong. It's not wrong at all. It's just, it's what it is the walls that we assume are permanent in our being. So we don't question them because they've always been there. The walls of, we'll call them the walls of disappointment. And as we feel into those and begin to allow them to melt and come alive, they do bring a message of despair. And this is why we bring Ho'oponopono into the equation. Because despair is from another time and place. It's not present reality. You would not be here if your present reality was about despair. It is a flavor that we all carry and we all experience at times, but is not the fundamental ground of our being once we begin to apply Ho'oponopono without judgment. We allow the sadness to be, and we say into it, thank you. We say thank you because we are grateful to have the opportunity to address this disappointment within us so that we can begin to experience it as a flavor rather than the only flavor. So we say into it, thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. As we forgive the disappointment, as we allow the disappointment to be nourished and come to a different flavor. So we allow that sadness, that disappointment to be present. And we say to our highest self, which we know is the fundamental frequency of what we are, we say, thank you. I love you. And I'm sorry. And in embracing these frequencies, the higher self begins to shine through and dissolve the sadness. The disappointment. And it doesn't matter which generation before us established us in disappointment. That's completely irrelevant. Blame is not appropriate. We just embrace, love, and bring to harmony. And then a different flavor appears. This is the practice of Ho'oponopono. We welcome your questions. Yes.
What's the flavor of the higher self?
Ah.
The feeling?
So the question is, what's the flavor of the highest self? Well, we once described it as lettuce, as it was described to us. It is all flavors and no flavors, and it is pure peace. Now, we know you probably expected us to say bliss. Bliss is a state. And in the final analysis, all states change. What doesn't change is the fundamental power of being. And that which is beyond has every flavor and no flavor. Because it is beyond flavor, it is being itself. And in being itself, all experience is available from that state. Nothing is rejected. Everything just is. And from that state, it's all perfect. This is the state of being. Which isn't to say that nothing is happening in that state, is a state of pure awareness where there is a feeling of pure potency. The Om sound. We hope that answers your question. How may we serve further? You know, this is not to deny the states of pleasure, joy, but if we hold those bliss, joy, transcendent wisdom, if we hold those states as a goal, then when we discover ourselves in despair, then there's some sense of failure. And it's not about success and failure, and it's not about bliss versus despair. It's about embracing the totality of being. And from that perspective, all is as it should be. Or we'll say as it is meant to be, because things are all in a constant process of evolution. And devolution. How may we serve further? We love your questions because they require us to articulate that which you want to know. We love this process because, of course, for everyone on this call, it's evolution. Yes.
I think you described this, but the image of our energy is a torus of circulating energy going around and circulating back. And it's something I experience sometimes. But Mike's, but I wonder if you could articulate a bit about the connection between that and universal divine energy, because it seems sort of self-contained, and as you're working with this, um, being with all that is, all that is.
Hmm. So again, we're running into the problem of language. The question is about experiencing our energy as a torus. The torus, as we experience it, is the central channel, has energy within it flowing both up and down. And as it flows, it comes out the top of the head 360 degrees around our body like a fountain and comes down around us, gathers beneath us, enters the central channel, comes up 360 degrees around us, a showering fountain of love. We'll just say energy. Comes down around us, gathers, comes up. Of course, it goes in both directions at all times, but it's easier to experience and discover the flow if you stick to one direction initially. So the question is where or how or what is the relationship between that and the all that is? And as we experience ourselves more and more as a flow of energy or a field of light, and it depends on whether you're a more kinetic person or a more visual person, how you describe that, or a field of sound, the Om sound. These are all parts of the same thing radiating through whichever sensory experience is most available to us as personalized human beings. So the relationship to that and ultimate reality is that the more refined your perception of yourself and the more you are living in the experience of yourself as an energetic being, the more you are connected to that field of ultimate reality, which is the field of the all that is, which we call that which is beyond. No being is ever separate from that field. However, our perceptions of that field become distorted by our focus concentration on that which is less refined, which very often is the experience of some undigested emotion from a past disappointment that clouds our vision of the highest reality. We hope this makes sense to you. Does that answer your question?
I think so. I'm thinking about that image, and what all you say makes sense. And also the image of like pranic plasma coming from a higher field to a more condensed field to heal it.
Yes, and we use, up and down and opening of various energetic centers to create an image that allows that all can relate to. But the interchange, we'll say, of pranic plasma is, of course, multidirectional, multifaceted, and not just one frequency. It's multiple frequencies that address whatever needs to be healed in a given system. We oversimplify intentionally to make the concept, the experience of being uplifted available in a way that isn't confusing. If we just say that, a field of pranic plasma becomes available, that's not so easy to relate to as having this beautiful flower open and be nurtured and watered. We see that happen in nature every day. And so we can easily relate to that image and become that open flower being nourished. And that is truly what is happening. But it's happening through every cell and every dimension of reality. It's not just limited to that one vision. We hope this makes sense and isn't confusing to you. Please ask further.
it is confusing to me because I don't necessarily feel the torus, but on the rare instances, when I feel the central channel and the energy's going up and down, and then you get to a quiet point, and it seems to, for me, settle probably third chakra, below the belly button, and there's a still point that happens. It's hard to describe. And then from that still point, it seems like the energy from every cell in my body seems to expand into, I don't know, I guess it's a torus or an egg. And then from there, it just seems to just expand into infinity. And it's just, so it's a hard thing to I don't know, is it all individual? How you feel this energy, and with that expansion, it's really cool. But I don't know. I don't know if that's a question.
So he just described a process where the energy coalesces around the navel, reaches a still point, and then expands throughout the system. This is part of the self-healing mechanism that is built into every human being. As the pranic plasma comes in, reaches a still point, informs the entire body of its new frequency, the entire being of its new frequency, and then reorganizes. And as part of that reorganization process, there is an expansion and a sense of going outwards. And then as that reorganization completes, there is a sense of coming back inwards. And then the reestablishment of the energetic flow at we'll say a different frequency. And throughout a meditation period, this experience can happen depending on what your cycle of meditation is like, and different beings at different times have different cycles of this experience. And this, in truth, is the healing experience in energetic healing, is going through this cycle and eventually being able to bring others through this cycle of healing. So we answered the question in the same vein in which it was asked, not exactly a question and not exactly an answer, but a description of a process that every human being has access to. Is that helpful?
Yeah, but it's a really wonderful experience, for lack of a better word, but the coalescing, the coming back, um, there's always, there's, there's always seems to be a disappointment in me, a longing to not come back from that expansion. And so that's the the challenge for me, is not wanting to come back, you know. So how do you get past the disappointment?
The way to get past the disappointment of the coming back is to understand that the disappointment in coming back is a phase of growth. And it is temporary, as is every emotional interpretive state temporary. And that there are certain times when the flavor of pain and disappointment permeates our experience. And that has everything to do with karma. And as we say Ho'oponopono into that disappointment and understand that it is mutable, but that it's not always mutable in our time frame of how long we want to experience that frequency. But that all frequencies are temporary and they will change upward as we continue to work. And that understanding, having lived through that process more than once, teaches us to trust the process itself, and that our work will lead us to more pleasurable frequencies until we get to the place where we no longer care. Whether it is pain or pleasure, they feel the same, because what's real is that which creates all of it, which is the fundamental origin of being and doing. As we do inner work, we are being. And we are allowing understanding that every experience that we have is one part of the whole. And that as we deepen and deepen our experience of ultimate reality and let go of any expectation that it be a certain way or feel a certain way or be what we want it to be, and truly allow it to explain itself to us, which is beyond our wildest imagination, beyond our language, beyond our current perceptive ability or our current perceptive range. We lost the words. We hope you are experiencing with us. Please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
For the last several months, I've been consulting the I Ching because I feel very stuck. And also, I have more than one problem and, difficulty that I feel needs to be resolved. And each time, almost invariably, I get hexagrams that say, basically, turn it over. You don't have to do anything. You shouldn't do anything. Turn it over to the higher power. And if I do attempt to do anything, I'm just getting in the way of the higher power helping me. And by nature, I'm a pretty passive person who tends to take the easy way out. And so I'm also very interested in using positive thinking and manifestation practices to change my circumstances, magic even. And so I'm feeling very frustrated and I don't know what to do.
So the question is this: there are several problems that he's facing that he has been using the I Ching to attempt to receive guidance. And the I Ching invariably gives him hexagrams that make him feel that the solution is to do nothing, but allow the highest to express itself. And it is his nature to do that anyway, but the underlying thing that we're seeing that wasn't exactly asked was that the problems are still there and not solved. Is that part of the question?
Yes.
So here's what we say to that. When circumstances are not ideal and things require a change, the most effective way to participate in the change so that what is manifested is more abundant than what previously manifested. Can we say it in that way? Will that address the issues? Is that a yes?
Uh, I'd say that's 2/3 of it, yes.
Okay, so we'll just stick with that part for now, and then we'll go to the other third after that. So the way to work with that is, first of all, to allow your imagination to run wild in terms of visioning the highest possibility that you can imagine as a solution, which means that the first thing that comes to your mind is not it. And you just creatively visualize the absolute highest thing you can imagine, absolute fantastic result beyond what you can imagine. And then you imagine beyond that. You imagine a situation that satisfies everything for everyone involved, not just you, but everyone else who might be connected to that situation. So you imagine the highest resolution of the experience that you can. For example, we don't know what the issue is, but let's say it's wanting to move to a different space, or attracting a different opportunity. So you imagine what would make you the absolute most blissful, happiest resolution. So you imagine a space to live in, for example, that has everything that you want. Like we'll tell you for Rebecca, lots of light, lots of clean air, nature close by, water, hot water, cold water, every kind of water available to jump into, to swim, to be in nature, to have everything that is needed, food, clothes, all provided for, transportation, everything available, and some sense of luxury and flow. So something like that, just really expansive. And then you put that in your garden star chakra and you water it. And every day you'll have some little way that you imagine it to be better, even. And you live as though that's coming. And it's very important that you have faith. Faith. This is the only place of faith in our practice, is that you have faith that what you are investing your attention in is what will manifest, or something better. You can always leave the or something better possibility there, in case your imagination is limited, which all of us have limited imagination. And you begin to live from that vision. And so that vision is nourishing you from below. It's coming through your being with every breath as you inhale and exhale. And then you report to us what happens. And you do that in every field where there's a problem. And if the problem has to do with another person, then you visualize what it is you would like to say to that person. Usually when there's a difficulty with a person, the communication has been disturbed in some way. And so you visualize what you would like to say to the person. You go to the Annassa temple as your highest self, so that the message is coming from your highest self to the highest self of the other person in the protected space of the Annassa temple. With our support, you invite the other person to the temple, you share your message, and then you let go. You leave it to God. And you do not chase the answer in them. You do not chase the relationship, you just allow. And in the same way, you are holding the vision of the highest for all beings. And life begins to inform you about how to be more effective for yourself and others as you practice in this way. Always, always dedicating your effort to the highest possible for yourself and everyone else. And if you leave yourself out of the equation, you do it at your own peril, because we must save ourselves first in order to reach back and have the foothold and the handhold to help others. We cannot bring anyone else to a place we have never been ourselves. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Is there still that third?
No, you covered that too.
Okay. Okay. How may we serve further?
I have a question.
Mhm.
Is there a way of working lovingly with despair when despair is not here? I ask because it is very difficult to work lovingly with despair when it is not here.
Well, count your blessings. No sense cultivating despair when it's not here. So be grateful. Cultivate the highest. How may we serve further? We hope that answers the question. We didn't mean to make light of it, but it's our experience that despair filters around. It flows through every once in a while. And sometimes it's the predominant flavor. And so we wanted to address it as the predominant flavor because that is a common experience, not an uncommon experience, especially at the beginning of deep inner work. And so despair is not to be ignored. So we spend a fair amount of time addressing that, because especially in these times where we've had so much isolation and difficulty in the past 15 or 16 months, despair has probably settled into all of us for a moment or two during that time. And we acknowledge that all parts are welcome. From homicidal rage to pure ecstatic bliss. and that which is beyond. All highs and all lows. How may we serve further?
Good morning, Becky.
Good morning.
Good. How are you? So my question is, I've worked with the garden star chakra and imagined all these wonderful things, and yet, as we talked about in the beginning of the session, there's how do you avoid the disappointment when you're planting seeds for all these things, but they're not necessarily manifesting? Because I know Annassa talks about, the trickiness of time, but that's my question, if that makes sense.
That makes total sense. And as we were saying earlier, there is a period in the process of manifestation where faith is required. And so when there is the disappointment, the faith is that wasn't right for you. So, okay, that's disappointing, but you hold to your vision. And if anything, you expand your vision because you learned from the disappointment. And so this evolution is continuous, and it may be that you haven't even imagined what is possible yet. And so the disappointment is to have you reimagine the highest. Does that make any sense? Does that feel like we're in flow with your question? So understand that everything is a process, and that the participation is to allow the disappointment, to speak through the disappointment to our highest self with love and gratitude that we didn't settle for less, and allow the process to begin again. Because every disappointment is the opportunity for the reorganization for something else higher and finer to occupy the space. Does that make sense to you? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So, we still have a few minutes. We can take another question. Just misread the time. Kath, speak to us. How are you? Can't hear you yet.
There. How are you?
Okay. Wonderful. How about you?
I'm good. I had a question. There's something that's been coming up a little bit recently that's a feeling that I'm not accustomed to. And it's a feeling of restlessness, but kind of not knowing what to do about it. And I'm usually, I usually have plenty to do and all that, but it's almost a feeling like kind of going into stasis, like I'm somewhat agitated and restless, but I don't know where to aim it. And I wondered if you had thoughts on that.
Well, usually when that kind of restlessness appears, it has to do with the reorganization that's trying to take place. And if you can be quiet and ask to be informed, and just be quiet and ask to be informed until there is some different awareness. Because as long as you're in the restless agitation, you know, when a change is trying to take place in the process we were talking about earlier, in the healing process where there is this stillness that happens, in the center of that stillness, as we sit in it, there is very often a restless agitation that just makes us want to run from that stillness, because the reorganization, the potency of the reorganization is so strong that it's virtually impossible to sit steady through that reorganization. But having experienced that reorganization over and over, we begin to trust that restless agitation as it presents itself in the process of our reforming before we begin to settle into the new state of health. That restless agitation is a potential for distraction and abortion of the process. And so when we say settle into it and ask to be informed, this is what we are telling you to wait, to be quiet, to allow the restless agitation to either inform you of how to proceed or help you to have the determination to hold through the reorganization to its completion before you jump off your cushion and run, which is what we usually want to do when that is happening. So this is a very important question and a potent practice to hold still when the desire, the agitation, and the desire to leap up and run before the process is complete. The not knowing is the clue that it's time to be quiet and hold steady. When you, and even distrust a little bit of the desire to respond before. See, the knowing has to have a sense of evolution to it, a sense of expansion, a sense of, you know, a sense of going toward rather than running away. That's how we know. And then that's what we have to say about it. Does that answer your question?
You know, it hugely helps because all I had was the sensation. I was ignorant about what it was or where it was coming from. So even just knowing that it's part of process, it makes it easy because I recognize, you know, I mean, how many times when we sit and we're like, we don't want to stay on the cushion, we want to be anywhere but else, but I'm very familiar with that association of restlessness. And this was just like sitting in a chair in the living room and I was just feeling that feeling. So it really helps knowing what it's about because yay. I mean, now I know when I'm feeling it about what it's about. So that's that's incredibly helpful. And I don't want to run away from it. It's like, oh, goody, this is part of the process.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We value your questions. Every single one of them. Thank you so, so much. So we're coming into our time of meditation. And today, as we do most weeks, we're going to be quiet now and allow you to do your own practice. We encourage you to feel into each energy center and allow yourself to become aware of the stillness between the breaths and to feel into that as we meditate. And we will be keeping our eyes open and sharing the experience of Annassa with you as we continue. So delightful to be with you. So, in whatever way you're comfortable, we will begin transmitting, and we encourage you to participate however you feel in this moment. Take your attention inside, and we'll be quiet till the end of the program. Thank you so much for being with us today. We have completely enjoyed being here with you. Such a great gift. Till we meet again.